ways that narcissists put stress on your body, and you're going to want to watch all the way till the end, because there's something that I didn't know about. There's something really that everybody thinks that they know about, but it's actually something that it's not as common as you might think. It's something that everybody thinks is super common, and it's something that's different than everyone might think, that I want to tell you all about at the end here. So the first one, though, is chronic fatigue and in issues on your adrenal system. You're just so tired all the time. You don't even realize how tired you are. It affects like your sleep. I mean, I know for me, when I was dealing with a narcissist all the time, I had a narcissistic business partner, and my husband and I actually have a narcissist in our family that we had to draw some really pretty strict boundaries with, until we even realized that I was waking up in the middle of the night thinking about it. I was thinking about it in the morning and during the day, and brushing my teeth and all of this stuff. And it takes all of your energy, and you don't even realize what's going on. It really causes this massive amount of fatigue and stress on your body. And so you have this chronic fatigue going on, and you don't even realize how tired you are until you start to recover from it. So that's number one. You just chronically fatigued and tired, and you don't even realize why. That's the first one. Another way that narcissists put stress on your body, it really is actually stemming from the adrenal problems and the chronic fatigue, is weight problems. Because what happens is, when you have so much stress on your body, it actually starts to cause issues with your A1C levels, and it slows down all kinds of other issues in your body, your metabolism and everything else. And so you actually start to develop weight problems, which actually causes all kinds of other issues in your body, not to mention problems on your joints, which in turn causes more problems with fatigue and more problems with your other systems and your other organs and everything else. And one contributes to the other. It's just an ongoing cycle with that, because once your systems all start slowing down, then your weight problems compound, and then that actually causes more issues with everything else. And then you're feeling worse about yourself. And then, especially if your narcissist is maybe even making you feel bad about how your weight problems, are making you look, or something like that, it just even contributes worse. You feel bad about yourself, your self-esteem gets lower. It's just compounding, compounding, compounding. And so that leads me to number three, which is that you can start to have panic attacks, depression, and anxiety. This is where it starts to affect your mental health. And now you really don't have the energy or the wherewithal to want to do anything about losing weight, or you just feel lethargic, and you don't want to do anything about getting out of bed, or you don't have energy to want to get up and go exercise. You don't have the joy or the lightness or this feeling in your body. I mean, vibrationally, your energy levels, I mean, you can actually measure in hertz how you're feeling. And the lower level of emotions are actually lower vibrational as far as how you measure. So feelings such as sadness or anger or regret, those lower level feelings are actually lower vibrational energies. Feelings such as happiness and joy and contentment, they're much, much higher vibrational energy levels. And so it's interesting, because you don't feel like doing anything, and it all ends up compounding on itself. And so that takes its toll on your body because you just don't feel like doing anything. And then it gets worse and worse and worse, especially if this person is now continuing to degrade you or debase you or say things to you like you're worthless or you're good for nothing or no one loves you or I've talked to everybody in the neighborhood and everybody agrees with me that you're worthless, or no one in your family even loves you, and they say these things like that. And, I have a whole video on the kinds of phrases that narcissists use, narcissists' favorite phrases, which you can definitely check out. They say these things, by the way, because they don't feel good about themselves. They hate themselves. And, you need to take care of yourself and you need to have self care. And I have a whole video on self care to cope with narcissists, which you should definitely check out. And so they lie to you. They say these things because they feel like crap about themselves and they hate themselves. And, the way people treat other people is always a reflection of the way they feel about themselves. It has nothing to do with you, and you can't take it personally. I know it's easier said than done, but it is the truth. So these are just a few of the ways that narcissists put stress on your body. Another one is number 4, chronic pain and digestive issues. You can start to develop issues with autoimmune diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, lupus, all sorts of issues like that. I've heard many people talk about those kinds of things to me. And, that's a major problem, which is why you definitely need to start taking care of yourself, even if it's just breathing exercises, somatic exercises, put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your stomach in the morning and say, I am healthy, I am loved, I am at peace. Just start doing those kinds of things. Start at least a few times a day, stop and take some deep breaths. And when you're in stress, you don't realize that you start breathing in a much more shallow way. And then your cells are not getting oxygen to them. And so, set your alarm a couple of times a day to go off and just take some deep breaths and breathe deeply a few times a day. Just even that will make a huge difference for you. So I want you to put in the comments right now, breathe, to remind yourself to breathe, because just doing that, and I want you to do that right now. Take a couple of deep breaths. And when you breathe in, just remind yourself to breathe in positive energy. And when you breathe out all of that negative energy that you are holding in. Imagine you're breathing in positive energy. And when you breathe out, you're just exhaling and you're getting rid of negative energy. And just doing that makes a huge difference. And number 5, see PTSD. And I'm saying this because most people think of PTSD. And the difference, by the way, is PTSD is when you have been exposed to one set of events in a quick manner. So PTSD is, like a car accident or a war or something, one thing. A complex PTSD, so complex post-traumatic stress disorder, means that you have been exposed to something continuously over a long period of time, and it actually causes a much greater effect over time on your body. So it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and that is much, much worse for you. And that's what happens with people who have been in longer term relationships with narcissists. And that's what I wanted to tell you about, is number 5, and how narcissists put stress on your body. And that is why it is so important that you take care of yourself. That is why it is so important that you do look for an exit plan when it comes to narcissists. And that is why I do what I do. So, what mind games do they play with your emotions? I know, see, narcissists and empaths, they seem to find each other, right? Because they see you, they spot you, they know that you are this kind person. They know you're a good person. They know that you feel like you can help them, that you can love them back to health. You see that they're like hurting, and maybe you can fill that black hole within them. You can't. You can't. Run the other way. It's not going to help. Okay. Stop thinking that you can do that. All right. So one of the things that they do, number one, is they gaslight. They gaslight you. You know what gaslighting is? Gaslighting is they make you question your reality. They make you question your sanity because they actually make you question your own mind, like your own senses, your own eyesight, the things that you're seeing with your own brain, your own eyes or your own ears. Here's what I mean by this, your own reality. I'm going to give you an example. I didn't know you were going away this weekend. You never told me that. Oh, yeah. We had a whole conversation about that. You agreed. And what? I don't remember that. Oh, yeah. We talked about that and you agreed. And you have no memory of that, but they'll make you believe that you did. And you have no memory of that whatsoever. That's gaslighting. And I know I've mentioned this before, but for those of you who maybe haven't seen some of my other videos, it comes from the movie Gaslight from the 30s, where the husband was actually trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. And what he would do is blow out gas lights. And she would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, no, it wasn't. And he was literally trying to make her think she was crazy. And that's where it comes from. And that's what gaslighting is. Okay. So gaslighting is literally trying to make somebody question their own reality by thinking that they're crazy. Okay. So that's what gaslighting is. And that's what number one is. And if you want to know more about narcissistic gaslighting phrases, you can definitely check out my video on that. And if you are so ready to shut down gaslighting, put "shut them down" in the comments below, because it is so insidious. And it is literally something that all narcissists do. It is definitely something that they do across the board. For whatever reason, it is part of their playbook, especially covert narcissists, for whatever reason. And one of the things that they do, by the way, with gaslighting is they'll take like part of something that's kind of like a partial truth, and they'll sort of spin it into something so it sort of seems true. And so it really kind of makes you question your reality in that way. It's so really icky. So definitely shut them down, right? All right. So number two is projection. And projection is accusing the empath of what they themselves are doing. I have a whole video, by the way, on how narcissists tell on themselves. And this is definitely something that they do, but this is a way that they definitely play with empaths' emotions this way. They are accusing you of what they themselves are doing. And it is so confusing. And it is definitely one of the games that they play. So projection and deflection is definitely something that they do, by the way, when they get caught in a lie. So that's number two. Number three is diversion. And diversion is something that they also do when they're trying to get you off track, when they are being attacked personally. And so this is something that you definitely see when you're trying to talk to them about something, where they will say, "I don't like the way you said that. I don't like how you said that. I don't like when you brought that up. How come you brought that up then?" And then the whole conversation, instead of being about what you wanted to talk about, ends up all being about when you brought it up, how you brought it up, your tone, all about that, or that you came in at that time, or that you were wearing that coat, or how you hung up that coat, or what you were, that you brought in that particular thing at that time, or how you walked into the room. And it's all about something else. And you never get to the point of what you wanted to talk about ever. So that's number 3, which is diversion. Number 4 is triangulation, which is where they bring in third parties to validate their point of view or to attack you. And this is something that they do a lot. And I talk about this in my videos on their favorite catchphrases, which is everybody else thinks or no one else thinks. And this is really, really to isolate you and make you feel like you are just the most stupid person or the most horrible person, or you're awful in so many ways. And they are the smartest and they are the best, and you might as well just give it up. They don't even necessarily have to bring in that person to actually bring in that person, but they invoke that other person's name in some way, or people. Okay, so triangulation. And so you believe that there's this like other army of people against you that believes that you're awful and believes that they're wonderful. So that's triangulation. And number 5 is victim playing. So pretending like they're the ones that are suffering in such a bad state, and especially if it's at your hands, like you caused it, making you feel guilty, especially if you ever did anything bad to them, just playing this victim. Covert narcissists are very, very famous for this at all times, really, really playing this suffering victim person that you have to either take care of them, feel guilty. So victim playing is definitely a mind game that narcissists play with emotions. And no one loves me, or you don't love me, or you don't take care of me. So victim playing is definitely a mind game that narcissists play with emotions. So a lot of times you're not necessarily noticing it right away. But first of all, you start off thinking this person is perfect. Whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, I dealt with a narcissist in a business situation personally. And, my husband and I have had to deal with narcissists in our family as well. And, regardless of the type of narcissist, whether it's a covert narcissist or an overt narcissist, it's the same kind of thing. They start off amazing. They start off like, oh my gosh, this is like the most perfect, amazing person in the world. And they make you feel like you're the most incredible human being they've ever met. Like, wow, the stars have aligned. And then they start this hot and cold thing. And that's where the game playing starts. That's the very first thing that you start to notice, this hot and cold, this ghosting, and, where did they go? That's the first sign, really, a lot of the time. Now all of a sudden you're needy or something like that. You can't get them to text you back, or they're super passive aggressive. You can't get them to do the things that you asked them to do, or they promised that they would do. If it's a business relationship, or you're finding out that there's gaps in their stories, or there's lying, and they've got some kind of explanation about it, there's red flags that are showing up. And, you start to see that they're making promises that they have no intention of fulfilling. And then a lot of times you start to see them, they come like all the way up as close to your breaking point as possible. Like you're just about to the edge of you can't take it anymore. And then back to love bombing again, back to future faking, back to it's all going to be better, back to you'll see. Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. Back to, if it's a romantic situation, flowers, or I'm so sorry, or crying and desperate to keep you, or whatever it is. And, if it's a business relationship, all of a sudden they start doing the things they were supposed to do, or whatever it is, because they know like you're maybe about to leave or something, so there's this hot and cold, this up and down, all the way to your breaking point where you feel like there's no way you can stay another day. And then they're good again. And then back to this thing. So you start to see that all the time. And in negotiations, you kind of see that where you think you have a deal and all of a sudden you don't have a deal anymore. Now they add something else or they take away something. And now it's constantly what I say, moving the goalposts. By the way, I have a whole video on why narcissists move goalposts, which you should definitely check out. Why do narcissists move goalposts constantly? Definitely check out that video. In that same vein, similar vein, they never resolve issues in the relationship. You have this constant circular conversation. You're trying to resolve an issue and they never resolve the issue. That's another game that they play. You sit there and you try to have a conversation with them about something. And let's say you try to talk to them about maybe something that they did or they didn't do. And it's, why are you bringing this up now? Oh, I don't like your tone of voice. Oh, everybody can hear you right now. I'm really tired. Why are you talking about that? Oh, do this first, before you get to that, let's talk about this. And you never get to talking about what you wanted to talk about. Well, you interrupted me. So you never get to talking about what you wanted to talk about, ever. There's never any resolution to problems in the relationship. And another thing way that they play games is that they just never give you what it is that you want in the relationship. They'll say that they're going to give you what you want. You'll see that it's going to be better. And from now on, I'm going to always do this, that, or the other thing. It could be the simplest thing, if you're married to the person, from now on, I'm going to be doing the laundry every single week or whatever it is. And then they just never do it. And, well, this week I had that, and this week I had this, and it just never happens. And why are you always on my back? Whatever it is, it just never happens. By the way, if you are seeing what I'm seeing and you totally are resonating with this so far, give me a totally in the comments. Just write totally in the comments. So those are the, some of the game playing that they do so far, and then a lot of times it's just that they'll just raise their voice. You're trying to talk to them. And the more you try to talk to them about something, they'll just raise their voice or they'll use hand gestures. They might even get physical with you because they just don't want to hear what you have to say. Or maybe they'll just walk away because they don't want to hear what you have to say. Maybe they just won't even text you back. Maybe they'll just completely ghost you because they don't want to hear what you have to say. So that's another way that they will game play you. They're just completely manipulating you constantly. So, they're toying with your feelings. It's just hot and cold constantly. You don't ever get what you want. They get what they want because they're constantly controlling you, game playing with you, and you just constantly feel used, abused, emotionally racked, and everything is your fault. Everything is, put on you. You're constantly being made to feel guilty. You're the one who's irresponsible, lazy, the problem in the relationship, and everything's always turned back on you. And, that's the way they manipulate. That's the way they game play. So, those are just some of the things, those are just some of the ways that narcissists gameplay in relationships, romantic, business, personal. They act the same, whether it's covert, overt, doesn't matter. They act like that in any, and when they are negotiating, it's the same thing, only it's even more heightened. And that's why I specialize in this, because you cannot negotiate with a narcissist in a regular, reasonable person way. The regular rules of negotiation just simply do not work with narcissists. Okay, by the end of this video, you're going to have 7 ways that you can 100% rely on narcissists. There's lots of things that you can rely on narcissists not to do, but what can you 100% rely on them to do? Okay. Number one, you can 100% rely on them to ruin special occasions. And why is that? Why do they love to ruin special occasions? Well, they don't want to see you getting the attention. They hate when you are getting attention or other people are getting attention. I mean, that's just the bottom line. There is a supreme example in the whole Will Smith, Jada situation. I'm telling you, what a better example than right there. Here it was, the pinnacle of his career. He is supposed to get his Oscar and Chris Rock is there. He's supposed to make jokes about celebrities. That's his job. And, I get that this is my opinion, but, he makes a joke about Jada's bald head. And everybody knows at this point that 2 days before the Oscars, she had made a TikTok video that said, I don't give 2 craps about this bald head. She said she didn't care about it. Chris Rock says something about the bald head, and everybody's laughing, including Will Smith. And what happens? She gives him the look. If you had read Will Smith's book, you know that he was triggered by that because he didn't protect his mom, or he felt like he was supposed to have protected his mom when he was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. And his father, he had beaten his mom when he was a kid, and he felt like he should have been able to protect her. And so when Jada gave him the look, he was triggered by that. And so there he goes, and he goes up there and he does this thing, and she ruins that special occasion for him. But, I've done other videos on YouTube about that, why narcissists love to ruin holidays. I highly encourage you to check those out. Why do narcissists love to ruin holidays? Why do they love to ruin your birthday? Because they can't stand for other people to be getting that attention. They just absolutely drives them crazy because other people are taking that supply away from them. So you can 100% rely on a narcissist to ruin special occasions. That's number one. Number two, the next thing that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is treat strangers better than you. You can 100% rely on that because it's that face, right? That outward thing, where they are 100% want to look better than to the outside world. That's that diamond level supply that I talk about. That is more important to them than what's going on inside, because, they don't have that internal sense of value. So they're constantly trying to feed their emptiness inside and trying to feed it from external sources is better than internal sources. And so, because, they already have you right there. And they can treat you poorly, degrading you, debasing you, and controlling you. And they get a sense of supply from that as well. So that's another form of supply that they're already getting from you. So by adulate them, like in other words, they want the strangers to give them adulation and compliments and that sort of thing. And if they can get that from the strangers, oh, you're so wonderful, you're so amazing, all that sort of thing, well, then that's even better from their perspective. So that's why they treat strangers better than you. And so you can definitely 100% rely on that. They want strangers to think that they're wonderful. They're basically love bombing the strangers all the time. So you can 100% rely on that. So the number three thing that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is project and deflect. They will always project and deflect, meaning they're not going to take responsibility. So, even if you for sure show like you were supposed to do this thing, or, I used to have people who would work for me or whatever, and they were supposed to complete a task or whatever. Oh, it was always somebody else. It was somebody else's fault. It was always something happened or whatever. They can never, ever, ever take responsibility, project and deflect it, or it's your fault if you had just been better, or if this had just happened or whatever. They can never, ever, ever take responsibility. And part of that is because they don't have any sense of self-worth. They don't have any sense of value. And so if they have to take responsibility, then somehow it takes away from them. So that's number three. Number four is what I call lying and denying. It's very closely related to projecting and deflecting, but it's a little bit different. And that is that, they will always lie and deny. And so again, even if you present like a text message or obvious evidence that says you did this thing, you said this thing. No, didn't happen. Nope. Lying and denying. They will absolutely lie right to your face. And hey, that becomes great leverage, by the way. If you end up having to litigate against them, you end up having a case with them. That's how you build your case. That's how you start building your summaries. That's how you start building your leverage, which is what I teach you guys. And if you want to know more about what happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie, definitely have a YouTube video on that. Highly encourage you guys to check that out. And if you agree with me so far, highly encourage you, write amen in the comments here, because you know that what I'm saying is true so far, right? I know you guys have seen this. So, 100% you can rely on a narcissist to do these things so far, right? All right. So the number five thing that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is gaslight. All narcissists gaslight. Whether you're dealing with a covert narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, a malignant narcissist, whatever supreme kind of narcissist you're dealing with, you can 100% rely on a narcissist to gaslight. They all gaslight. So what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is when they're trying to make you think you're crazy. They literally are trying to basically say that what you're seeing with your eyes, what you're hearing with your ears, what you're experiencing with your senses is not true, is not happening, is not what you're experiencing. And it literally eventually makes you think that you're crazy. I've been honest and candid with you guys in the sense that I have dealt with narcissists in my own life, not just in my law practice, which obviously I've seen a ton of them in my law practice as well, but I've had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists in my personal life. I had one as a business partner. My husband and I had one in our family. And, I've personally had to deal with gaslighting, and it's really just insane when you're experiencing this gaslighting, when you know you've had a conversation with somebody and they literally come back and say, oh, we talked about that, don't you remember? And you know you didn't have that conversation, or you know that the conversation was something different than what you talked about. It's crazy. Or when they're presenting something that's completely different. I've actually seen it in court. I've actually seen lawyers who will say, this is what the court order said, and the court order says something completely different. And even when presented with what the court order actually says, they'll say, well, I know that's what it says, but that's not what it says. And trying to convince the judge that it says something different, even though in black and white, it'll say something different, just to try to see if they can get the judge to be convinced. And sometimes the judge will be convinced. I mean, it's pretty powerful, this gaslighting sometimes. So it's a scary kind of a tactic when somebody can be that influential, and especially when they're working on that person all the time. It's a tactic to destabilize you. It's a control tactic, and they've used it daily, day in and day out over time and over years. It can definitely be very, very effective. So that's number 5, and that's gaslighting. So number 6 of the 7 things that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is love bombing. And I also include in here, there's number 6, future faking, narcissist, faux apologies. You know, some people say apologies. I call them faux apologies, FAOU, because they're fake apologies, which they use when they're needed. It's all a manipulation. Everything is a manipulation. Everything they do say, every time they try to love bomb you, it's a manipulation. Every time they try to future fake you, it's a manipulation. It's all a game. It's all meant to manipulate you. It's all an attempt to manipulate you. And this I insert here at number 6 for a reason. The reason why I'm inserting it here at number 6, right before number 7, which I haven't gotten to number 7 yet, and you need to stay until I get to number 7 for a reason, is because this is where you're like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. You're plotting and planning to get the heck out of there. And if you're in a romantic relationship, you're packing your suitcase, maybe you visited the divorce attorney. If you're in a business relationship, you're finally like, okay, how do I get out of this thing? And now they come back. Now they start to realize, oh, they're leaving. My supply is walking out the door. So they start to love bomb you again. Now they start to future fake you. Now they start to apologize because they don't want their supply source to leave. Oh, things will be better. Or they start to do the things that they were supposed to do in the first place. This is what I saw in my business relationship with the person that I was in the relationship with. All of a sudden, the person started doing all the things that she was supposed to do before. You know, she started completing all the tasks that she said that she was going to do and then never had done. For me, personally, I was like annoyed because I thought, oh, so you did know that what you were supposed to do, you just weren't doing it. So that, for me, that wasn't helpful. But for other people, you know, who are in an intimate relationship, they could get sucked back in, and oftentimes very much are, because they hear what they wanted to hear, especially, you know, if you've invested a lot of time, you have children, maybe financially you're tied. This is where they're really, really good at saying exactly what they need to say in order to charm that person back into the fold. So 100%, you can rely on a narcissist to get that person back because they don't want to see their supply source gone. Not that they love you. Don't confuse number 6, the love bombing, the future faking, or the faux apology with love. And it can be very, very confusing. Don't confuse this with they actually have affection for you, they love you, they want you, or anything like that. This is definitely a manipulation. All right, number 7, we made it to number 7. Number 7 is you can 100% rely on them to drain the life out of you because they are sucking all of that energy from you. They are energy vampires. Before I knew these terms, I used to say that, when I was dealing with a narcissist, I used to say it was like a leech. I didn't know why I felt that way, but I felt that way. I mean, you can 100% rely because it is a black hole. That need for supply that they have, it can never be filled. You are expected to try to fill it, but you can never fill it. And so that's number 7 is you can 100% rely on them to drain the life out of you. And you will end up feeling completely depleted, completely drained. And you're going to end up feeling like your soul is sucked. I know the sneaky ways that narcissists control you. I've seen it. For years and years, I practiced law and I didn't see it. I didn't know how, narcissists operate. I didn't really understand this. Even as a lawyer, it was really not until I dealt with it as somebody who was in a partnership with somebody in a business endeavor, separate and apart from my law practice, that I really started to dive into learning about narcissists. And I had been lecturing all over the country on negotiation. I had even written a book on negotiation, and I had been a keynote speaker at an American Bar Association event, and all of this on negotiation, but I sure as heck didn't know that much about narcissism. And I didn't know the sneaky ways that narcissists control you. And that's why the majority of attorneys in this country really don't understand narcissism. And it really wasn't until I realized I was dealing with a narcissist myself in a business situation that I really started to dive into learning about narcissism and reading a lot of books on narcissism. And that's when I started to apply what I was learning about narcissism to some of my cases when I was still practicing full on. And that's when I started to see real movement in how to deal with narcissists. And now I coach people on how to deal with narcissists. And I've come up with a whole program, Slayer Negotiation with a Narcissist. That's when I really started to learn how to deal with narcissists in a really powerful way. I know the sneaky ways that narcissists control you. So one of the things that they do is they confuse the issues. They start talking about other things when you want to talk about something else. So one of the things that they'll do is, you'll say, hey, I want to talk to you about these text messages or something like that, and they'll say, why are you bringing that up now? Well, I just wanted to talk to you about these text messages, bringing that up now because you make it difficult for me. And you know how stressed I am about work, and I'm dealing with my sickness right now. And you know that I was sick last week, and I'm dealing with the stress of this and, all these other things. Oh, and you're yelling at me, and, the neighbors can hear us, and then all of a sudden it's about all these other different things. And you never get to talk about what it is that you wanted to talk about. They confuse the issues. Okay. So that's a sneaky way that they control you. All right. So that's number one. They confuse the issues. Number two is they look for your weaknesses and then they use those against you. They know exactly what it is that your Achilles heels are, your what your weaknesses are. And especially the deeper you get into having a personal relationship with them, the longer that they know you, they'll start to say things that they know are your weaknesses against you. They'll say things like, well, you're not very good at that anyway, or like just little passive aggressive things that you'll be like, whoa, where did that come from? That person probably isn't getting along with you because you're not very good at getting along with people, or, you know, something like that. And probably because of the issues that, you know, you had with your mother, and that's why you don't get along well with people, or something like that. And it's like, what, you know, just things like that they know will be hurtful to you, that sort of thing. So that's number two. Number three is gaslighting. All of narcissists use gaslighting to confuse you, to control you. And it's a very, very sneaky way to control you and try to confuse you, to make you think that you're crazy. And gaslighting, there's so many different forms of gaslighting, but it's a way of destabilizing you. It's a way of making you think that you're crazy. It's a way of making you think that your reality is not your reality. So I do have a whole video on narcissistic gaslighting phrases, but, you know, in short, it's basically a very brief explanation is something like, I'm going away next weekend. Oh, you're going away next weekend? I didn't know you were going away. Oh, yeah, we talked about that and you agreed. Don't you remember? We never talked about that. Oh, yeah, we had a whole conversation about it and you agreed. We never talked about that. Oh, yeah, we did. And you know, you never had that conversation, but they'll swear that you had that conversation. And, you know, they'll say things like that so many times. And then you start to question your reality. Like, maybe we did have that conversation. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that they'll do. Or, you know, you'll see a text message that's very, very suggestive with a coworker and, you know, at night or something like that, or love you and, you know, that sort of thing. And they'll say, that's not what you're seeing. You're so needy. You're very paranoid. We're just friends, and make you think like you're the one who's crazy, that sort of thing. Number four, sneaky way that narcissists control you is they become the victim by turning the tables. They do something wrong. And so, you know, you question them on it. Like I had somebody who was a professional, somebody who used to work with me, and you would ask them about something that they were supposed to be doing. And then suddenly it was, you know, that I had breast cancer 10 years ago. And, you know, this is very stressful for me. And, you know, and it became about that and not about the fact that they didn't do their work. And so now you're supposed to feel bad for bringing up the fact that they didn't do their work because they had breast cancer 10 years ago, and they become the victim. They turn the tables. So that's another way that sneaky ways that narcissists try to control you. Another way that narcissists try to control you is by shock and awe, like becoming very dramatic. They start to yell, they start to throw things, they wake you up in the middle of the night to have a fight with you, they throw on the lights, they might throw something, you know, at the wall. They try to control you like that by becoming very, very dramatic. And, you know, I had a sleigh client that I just interviewed, Shikati, who you should definitely listen to his interview on a podcast and also video here, where he talked about how he had actually like PTSD after getting out of the narcissistic relationship, because the narcissist that he was in relationship with used to throw on the lights in the middle of the night and, start to have fights with him in the middle of the night. That's the kind of thing they do. Shock and awe by becoming super dramatic. That's a way to control you, to bring you to your knees like that. So that's another one. Another one is these hot and cold games that they play. They start off with the love bombing, and you're the most amazing, incredible, special human being they've ever met. They sweep you off your feet. They rock your world. You are amazing. And huge gestures, and lock you in as quickly as possible. And you're like, wow. And then all of a sudden ghost you, and they don't respond to text messages, and days may go by. And then all of a sudden, like, you're so needy. What's up with you? I have to work. And, like these hot and cold games, that they play. And that's a way of controlling you. So that's another one. Another one that they do is use guilt, try to guilt you, so especially around holidays, this is a really biggie for covert narcissists. And I have a whole video on covert narcissism in relationships. Definitely check that out. And I dealt with a covert narcissist myself. So I have heard it all when helping people negotiate with narcissists and break free from these toxic relationships. And they say the same things over and over again. The thing about narcissists is that they do have a pattern of how they speak. And that's the good news. The bad news is that it is so, so difficult to deal with them. But the good news is that there is a pattern in dealing with them. And so if you're kind of wondering, am I dealing with a narcissist? Is it true? Is this person that I'm trying to manage, communicate with, negotiate with, a narcissist? Well, check out this video and you'll know by the end of this video. And make sure you watch all the way to the end, because I do have 7 different phrases here, and all of them taken together are, kind of a checklist for you. So you can kind of see, taken together, is this person a narcissist that I'm dealing with? Okay. And as I said, I've helped millions of people through this channel, thousands of people through my practice in coaching people through negotiations, through my law practice. So I definitely have seen it all. Believe me. All right. So number 1 is, you make such a big deal out of everything. This is really a form of gaslighting. And gaslighting is a way of making people feel like they're crazy. It's a form of control. It's a form of destabilizing people. It's really a way of getting a narcissist victim to believe that they don't have power. And so it's something that narcissists use to make their victims feel confused. So you make such a big deal out of everything. That's number 1. Number 2, this is really from a male to a female. Okay. And this is it your time of the month? I know it is so misogynistic. It's so degrading. It's so devaluing. And it really is just so meant to be, I'm not giving any credence to what you're saying. I'm totally going to just devalue whatever it is that just came out of your mouth, because I'm just going to say, oh, is it your time of the month? That's number 2. Number 3 is other people's wives or husbands think blah, 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 other people's spouses. Or in the same vein, it's even so and so agrees with me. You know, this is all in the same line of everyone else thinks, everyone else believes, or no one else thinks. It's a way of making you feel isolated. It's a way of making you feel like you're the only one who thinks this, or no one else thinks that. And it's actually also part of almost like a smear campaign that has started as well, because in that, they also maybe have started to speak about you to these people. And during the discard phase, you do see the birth of the smear campaign as well. And I do have a whole video on how to shut down the narcissist smear campaign, which I highly recommend that you check out, because sometimes the smear campaign can actually start long before you even know the discard phase has started, you know, where they started planting seeds long before. They started saying things about you long before that aren't even necessarily where I'm saying something bad about the person. They couch it in terms of concern. A lot of times I'm concerned about this person's parenting skills. I'm concerned about this person's drinking. I'm concerned about how much this person is working. I'm concerned about their long hours. I'm concerned about how much time they spend away from home, something like that, where it's a backhanded smear. And so then by the time the discard phase comes along, they can say, oh, I told you, that they spend so much time away. So that by the time it comes time to go into a custody phase or something like that, they can say, oh, I told you that they were never around, or I told you they were a terrible parent, or whatever. Even so-and-so agrees with me that you were never around and that you're a terrible parent. Everyone else thinks that you're horrible. No one else thinks that you should have custody, something like that. And so, everyone else believes this or that. And, they do the same thing even in a workplace setting. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a marriage. It can be a workplace setting too. They do the same thing. So no one else thinks that you should get this promotion. No one else thinks that you're good at sales. No one else thinks that you are very good at this job. And everyone else thinks that I'm better at it. That sort of thing. I mean, it's the same principle. You can take this same principle and apply it across the board to whatever it is that we're talking about. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, why are you bringing this up now? So what they do is they take whatever it is that you are trying to bring up and they attack what you're talking about. They attack your tone, the timing, when you're bringing it up, where you're bringing it up, so that you never get to bring up the topic of what you're bringing up, so that you're never heard, because then you feel totally frustrated. You never feel like you matter then. It's a way of devaluing you. It's a way of disrespecting you. If you think that this is so true so far, put "so true" in the comments. Another one that they'll say is, I don't like your tone. I don't like your body language. I don't like how you're standing. I don't like your posture. Again, it's something else to attack so that you never get to the point of what it is that you're saying. And number 6 is, you're so ungrateful, or some derivation thereof. You're so unappreciative. You don't know how good you have it. something like that. It's always something around how great they've been to you and how much you don't appreciate how good they are, and something to make you feel guilty. And especially if you are trying to ask for something from them, you are trying to get them to be held accountable for something, you're trying to hold them responsible for something, or you're even asking for them to acknowledge you or acknowledge your feelings, even not holding them accountable, even just acknowledge you in any way. That's when you're ungrateful, you're unappreciative, you don't know how good you have it, all of those things. They become a victim. They become a victim. Somehow it gets turned around back onto them. So that's number 6. And number 7 is you can never let anything go. You can never let anything go. Or can't we just move on? You're always starting problems. Can't we just move on? Why do we have to think about this? Why do we have to dwell on things? If you want to try to bring up anything that's an issue, then the next thing that they want to do is just forget about it, move on. Let's just sweep it under the rug. Let's just move on. Let's just get to the next level. You'll see, it'll all be better. And just basically future fake you. You'll see, it'll all be better. And why do we have to dwell on things? Okay, great. I already said it would be better in the future. Let's just move on. You got what you wanted. I said, fine. Okay, it'll be better in the future. From now on, you'll see, it'll be amazing. And they don't want to hear anything more about it. And, they just try to love bomb their way into saying the rest of the time it'll be incredible. And they just want to focus on that. And they don't want to hear anything more about you, your feelings, how they may have hurt you. They just want to think about the future. They want you to think about the future because they don't want to have to be, held accountable at all. They don't want to be held accountable. They want to be held responsible. And they really believe that if they can just get you to think about the future, that you'll just forget about it too, that they can just love bomb you back into thinking about the future and that you'll just forget about it and that everybody can just move on. And then they won't have to be held responsible for it, that they can just charm you with their charisma the way they did in the beginning, and you'll just move forward. And, they don't care about your feelings anyway. So what difference does it make? They just want what they want. They want you to be pushing your feelings back into their direction. They don't want to have to spend any time giving anything into your direction. So let's talk about phrases that narcissists use to control you. There are a lot of different ones that they use, but the good news for you is that narcissists actually do use the same types of phrases that in all different sorts of situations. I mean, the one thing I often say is that they're horrible, they're heinous, they're toxic, but it's almost like they use the same playbook. They are actually pretty predictable in their behavior. Are there different types of narcissists? Absolutely. There are covert narcissists, there are grandiose narcissists, there are malignant narcissists. And by the way, if you want to know more about covert narcissism in relationships, I do have a whole video on that. I do believe that covert narcissists are probably the most dangerous type of narcissist in a lot of ways because they're the most difficult to detect. A lot of times they're the stealthiest ones. They look kind and sweet, and a lot of times they paint themselves as a victim. Sometimes they're like downtrodden. Oh, poor me. They guilt trip people a lot of times. And so a lot of times the coverts are the most difficult ones to spot. And the two that I had to deal with that targeted me were both covert. So going back to phrases that narcissists use to control you, one of them is no one else will love you the way that I will, or no one else understands you the way that I do. No one else will deal with you. Basically trying to make you feel like you're so disgusting, repulsive, horrible, whatever in some way that you might as well not go anywhere else because they're the only ones who can, manage you, handle you, like you, love you, whatever. But yet somehow they love you, they like you, they deal with you, they manage you. But, you might as well stick with them because they do. But it's like kind of messed up because why do they stick with you and like you and love you or whatever? It kind of defies logic, but yet that is something that they often will say, so it's sort of like to get you to stay, because if you go anywhere else, you're going to be rejected. You'll be alone. You'll be isolated. So you might as well stick with this person who's basically mentally, psychologically, and spiritually abusing you. So that's number one. Number two is they talk in absolutes. Everyone else thinks this, or no one else thinks that. Like basically to try to get you to believe that whatever it is that you think is just stupid, dumb, ridiculous, not based in reality. If you're trying to make a point to them about something that you think, usually about something about them, they'll try to use this collective, who the hell knows who. You don't even know who everyone else is, or no one else is, but these nebulous whoever's don't agree with you. They all agree with the narcissist, whoever these people are. But it's meant to try to make you feel bad. It's meant to try to make you feel like your opinion is completely discredited, invalidated, means nothing, and therefore you shouldn't have it because, whoever their flying monkeys are, they all are lined up with them and against you. So that's another kind of phrase that narcissists use to control you. Another type of phrase that narcissists use to control you, and there are going to be several of these. We're going to go into the types of phrases that narcissists use within the gaslighting realm. By the way, I do have a whole video on how to shut down gaslighting, which you should definitely check out as well. But so these are the types of phrases that narcissists will use to make you think that you're crazy, because gaslighting is meant to make you think that you're crazy. It's meant to make you feel like whatever it is that you're thinking isn't true, to make you question your mind, to make you question your reality, to make you question what it is that you believe that you saw or you heard, or what you're seeing isn't what you're seeing, or what you're hearing isn't what you're hearing, or what the conversation is that you believe took place isn't what you took place. Your feelings aren't your feelings. That's what gaslighting is. So they will say things in the gaslighting realm such as, you're oversensitive. So you're oversensitive is to invalidate your feelings. So if you are feeling hurt about something, that took place, then they'll say you're oversensitive. You shouldn't be hurt about that. That's meant to invalidate your feelings. Another gaslighting phrase is something like, we talked about that, and this is what we agreed to. You agreed to this, don't you remember? And you'll be like, we didn't agree to that. We never had that conversation. We agreed to this, or that conversation never took place at all. They will change the details of a conversation, or they'll basically say that you agreed to something that never took place whatsoever. That's total gaslighting. You'll say, you said this, and they'll say, I never said that. I never said that at all. Again, that's gaslighting. They'll say things like you're delusional when you're trying to say something about how something took place, or how you're feeling about something, or your perception of something that's happening. You're delusional. I mean, that's totally meant to just say you're crazy. I mean, that's straight up gaslighting. Straight up gaslighting. You know, if you see a text message between somebody and a coworker, you know, maybe it's your husband and a coworker that looks flirtatious or something, and, you know, it doesn't look totally appropriate. You're just jealous. And it turns out maybe you weren't just jealous. Maybe there was something going on between them. That's all gaslighting. Those are all gaslighting types of phrases. You know, they're designed to make you think that you're crazy. Another type of gaslighting is in conversation, where you're trying to have a conversation with them and you'll say, I want to talk to you about, you know, these text messages that I saw. And they'll say, why are you bringing that up now? And you say, well, when would be a good time? And they'll say, oh, I don't like your tone. Well, I didn't raise my voice. Yes, you did. You just raised your voice. And now I can't talk to you because you're raising your voice at me. And now you can't get to the point of it because they keep interrupting you about that. Oh, now you just interrupted me. Oh, now it's about this. Oh, now it's about that. And you can never get to the actual point of the conversation because they keep talking about other things. And, you know, they'll bring up something else, or they'll bring up something else, or they'll bring up something else. Again, you know, project, deflect, lie, deny. If you've seen any of this so far, I would love to see a totally in the comments, because I'm sure that you guys have seen some of this so far. Okay. And then the next kinds of phrases that narcissists will use to control you are what I call guilt trip phrases. Guilt trip phrases. And you will definitely see this with covert narcissists. This is so much, you know, because of the victim mentality with covert narcissists. I mean, this is the one thing that you always see with covert narcissists. And I have a whole video on the one thing you always see with covert narcissists. You should definitely check it out. So guilt trip phrases. This is like, especially if you try to leave a covert narcissist, you try to leave a narcissist, you know, they might try to say things like, I would die if you leave, or don't leave the family. I would commit suicide if you leave, or you can't leave the family. Oh, I can't believe you're spending time over there. I can't believe you wouldn't be with the family. And so they'll try to guilt trip you, you know, so that you don't do the kinds of things that you want to do. They'll try to make you feel bad about having a life or doing other things or that. And so they will use phrases like that to try to guilt trip you back into doing the things that they want you to do. That's a little bit more passive aggressive. And, you know, you will see passive aggressive types of phrases from especially covert narcissists, you know, like, you know, you've lost weight, but, you know, you still have a ways to go. Things like that, passive aggressive types of things from covert narcissists. It's like not so nice kinds of things. Like they try to say nice things, but then it ends up not being so nice, you know, that sort of thing. But that's not phrases used to control you. Those are just passive aggressive types of things, but that's another whole story. But this video and this podcast is really focused on the phrases that narcissists use to control you. So, sex and narcissists. This is one of the lesser discussed, less talked about, less information is available on how narcissists actually use sex to control their victims. But it is absolutely happening, and it's something that we should be discussing more. In fact, sex is one of the most common ways that narcissists use to gaslight their victims. It's highly personal, it's very insidious, extremely toxic. Nobody knows what's happening because it's happening behind closed doors. So it's one of those areas that no one's going to see, which makes it a perfect way for narcissists to abuse their victims. It's highly personal, it's extremely embarrassing for people, so people just end up not talking about it, or maybe they just actually think that there's something wrong with them, because that's what the narcissist wants you to believe. If you think that this is a really crappy way for narcissists to control their targets, give me a "they suck" in the comments. Narcissists use many different ways to psychologically abuse their targets. If you want to know more about the different types of tactics that narcissists employ for control, check out my video on narcissist manipulation tactics. Because sex is such an important part of who we are as human beings, and especially with your romantic partner, you want to feel attractive, you want to feel like your romantic partner desires you. And so, of course, because that's something that you want, it's a perfect place for the narcissist to make sure that they control you and coerce you in this area. So the people who are in relationship with narcissists end up feeling used, abused, discarded. You end up feeling less desirable, or maybe not desirable at all. What happens in the bedroom when you're in relationship with a narcissist is that your needs are completely irrelevant, just the same as they are anywhere else. They set you up so that you feel like there's something wrong with you, and you end up feeling ashamed. And it affects your confidence, and it affects your self-worth. And it's something that ends up being so private and so personal that you end up feeling very, very isolated, because it's embarrassing. You don't want to have to admit to your friends or your family or even to a therapist that maybe your spouse doesn't want you, doesn't desire you, or that maybe you no longer desire that person because of the way they've made you feel, because of the way they've made your needs completely irrelevant. When you're in a sexual relationship with a narcissist, they communicate to you the message that your pleasure isn't important, that only their pleasure matters. And they subtly let you know that if you want pleasure, or if you want anything out of the romantic relationship, that you're being greedy, or maybe that there's something wrong with you for wanting that. But the bottom line is, what's really going on is that narcissists use it as a form of supply. Because remember, narcissists have no inner sense of value. They have to derive all of their value from the external. And that external value that they're sucking from all the people around them, we call narcissistic supply. It's their oxygen, it's what they feed on, it's their food. Because they're constantly trying to feed this beast and layer on this external value to slap onto the fact that they have no inner sense of internal value, and they have no ability to care for another person. So if they have no ability to have empathy or care for another person, it does not make them good sexual partners, because they certainly don't care about your needs, your desires, your wants. So narcissists use sex as a form of narcissistic supply. Remember that supply can come in the form of, big house, big car, the best schools, the right friends, the prestigious job. But narcissistic supply can also come in the form of control, gaslighting, devaluing, debasing, cutting people down, minimalizing them, marginalizing them, and making them think that they're crazy. So here you are in a situation where it's the most vulnerable. When you have a sexual relationship with somebody, it's a very, very vulnerable thing. It's a very vulnerable position to be putting yourself into. And so whenever you expose vulnerability to a narcissist, that becomes an excellent place for them to go after. Because anytime you show weakness or show something that you want to a narcissist, that becomes an immediate place for them to target. They're always looking for weaknesses, always looking, trolling, looking for ways to control people. And they can control people in areas where they are feeling vulnerable or exposing themselves or exposing anything that you want to a narcissist. That becomes a place where they can maybe get that from you. And so when you're negotiating with a narcissist, it's the same thing. You never let on exactly what it is that you want, and you try to steer them away from that because you know that that's the one thing that they're going to go after. But in a sexual relationship, you can't really play those games as much. I mean, you're in a sexual relationship, so you want to feel desirable. You want to feel like your partner wants to give you pleasure and vice versa. That's the whole basis of a sexual relationship. But when you're in partnership with a narcissist, you're never going to get that. Just the same as any of the relationship with the narcissist. The sexual part is actually just one component. It's one more area for them to gaslight. It's one more area for them to control. One more area for them to make you feel less, for them to devalue you. But it becomes very, very personal. It hurts way down into your soul because you don't feel desired by the one person you want to feel desired by. So it actually manifests itself in a number of different ways, which we're going to cover in parts 2 and 3 of this series. This is such an important topic that I decided to do it in 3 parts. And today was just the first part where we're just kind of giving you the basis of what's really going on in a sexual relationship with a narcissist. Okay, so let's talk about how narcissists set you up before you even realize it. First of all, right at the beginning, they start off by love bombing you like crazy, even if it's a business relationship. I know, I did the same thing. I was in a business relationship with a narcissist. I fell prey to it. Actually, I was voted one of the top 1% of attorneys in the country by U.S. News and World Report and all sorts of other very venerated magazines and organizations that, you don't pay, like real ones. And I fell prey to this person who was like super charming and said, oh, let's go into business together. And, I can help you get all these great contacts and it'll be great. And it'll be fantastic. And all of a sudden, here I am being led around by this covert narcissist, and life becomes a living hell. But hey, now I know. And it's led me to this, right? Now I do this for a living and I help you so that you don't fall into the trap of the same thing. But they set you up by building you up and making you think that they're perfect and wonderful. And they flood you with all this great, wonderful stuff. And you think, wow, where has this person been all my life? This person is amazing. Oh my gosh. And they set you up like that, thinking this is going to be the most amazing relationship I've ever had in my entire life. You actually kind of get into that. And especially if it's a romantic relationship, you kind of get used to that. You want that, and you kind of get addicted to that. And then all of a sudden, boom, where did that go? They pull the rug out from you, or they start devaluing you, and these red flags start showing up right away. The lying and denying and the projection and the deflection and all that craziness starts happening. But by the time that starts happening, they've already moved in, or their names are in your bank account, or you start making excuses for them. That happened because of this, or, you start to try to figure out what's going on, right? And they're conditioning you. They've been conditioning you from the beginning to see if you were going to be a good form of supply. So they set you up. They've been setting you up from the beginning. So that's number one, right from the beginning. Number two, another way that they set you up is they manufacture problems so that you will react. And this is especially true if there's some sort of litigation looming or something happening where they get a sense that you may become an enemy of theirs, because, with narcissists, you're either for them or against them. And if they think that you might be against them, then you become public enemy number one. And so they definitely want to make sure that you are going to go down. So they want to set it up that you look like the crazy one, right? So they try to trigger you into writing something that's going to make you look like the crazy one, or doing something that's going to make you look like the crazy one, or acting like you are going to look like the crazy one. They trigger you into crying or anger outbursts or whatever, so that they look calm and collected and you look like the crazy person, right? They try to get you to put something in writing or get you to react in some way so that they can then turn around and use your reactions against you. So they manufacture something to set you up. That's another way that they try to set you up. They try to trigger you through something that they do, something that they say. They might specifically call you a deadbeat parent, knowing that that's going to be a trigger point for you, knowing that you're going to say, what? I just picked them up from baseball. I just helped them from homework with homework. I just, I'm a wonderful parent. Don't take that bait. Just say, I deny your allegations. You don't need to go into all of that. Okay. I just want you to write in the comments right now, I'm not taking the bait. Write that down right now. I won't take the bait, because that's what they want you to do. The next thing that they do is they start planting seeds. They start planting seeds ahead of time. Sometimes it's long beforehand, especially with their flying monkeys, especially if they think there's a discard coming. They'll start planting seeds ahead of time with flying monkeys like, oh, Mary had a little too much to drink last night. I'm a little worried about her. They'll couch it in like concern. So worried about her. 6 months later, the divorce happens, and Mary's an alcoholic. Well, I did mention to you about her, that she had too much to drink that night. Like I told you, she had a bit of a drinking problem. And then, that becomes the basis for custody. And then now she wants, neighbor or whoever it is that she mentioned it to testify. Well, it's been talking about that there's been a drinking problem for a while now, so they start planting these seeds ahead of time against you. They start plotting and planning these seeds ahead of time. And maybe they've even been starting to collect data, ahead of time. And, that's something that they do to set you up long before the discard phase. And the last thing that they do to set you up, and again, do not take this bait, is they move goalposts. They'll send you over offers, and it really is just a way to manipulate you during the negotiation period. It appears like they want to resolve something. It really is just a way to go, here's a way to manipulate you, because by the time you go back and say, yes, I'll take your pretty crappy offer because you just want it over with, it's already done. It's already changed. They've already moved the goalposts. And by the way, I have a whole video on why narcissists move goalposts, which you should definitely check out. But, you know, they like to manipulate you. And I do break it down as to why they do that. And it has to do with their narcissistic supply and all of that. But they do that. They enjoy it. They get off on it. And that's one of the ways that they set you up. Don't take that bait. They enjoy it. It's like needling you. It's just a little way of needling you. My brother and I used to like pick at each other in the back seat of the car. It's like the same thing, only we were like 5 and they're, you know, full grown adults, bodily wise, not mentally. All right. So by the end of this video, I'm going to give you 10 tactics that narcissists use to get people to comply. So one of the ways that they do is they start off by love bombing you. They start mirroring you. They become like you. They want you to think that they're just like you. All right. So they even talk like you. They look like you. They even dress like you, sometimes super weird. So that's number one. They actually study you and they try to be just like you. Oh my God, you must be like my soulmate. Whether it's in business or your neighbor or whatever, they make it seem like you're just like long lost soulmates. So that's number one. They train you to comply by seeming at the beginning like you were meant for each other. That's number one. Number two, the next thing they do is this intermittent reinforcement, this hot and cold. And there's actually a study done by this psychologist named Robert Shapiro, and he did this study on monkeys, where if these monkeys got a reward every single time, the monkeys didn't even really care. But if they got a reward intermittently, just the anticipation that they were going to get a reward caused the dopamine levels in their brain to rise to the level of cocaine. Like they were so excited about maybe they were going to get a reward. And the fact that narcissists, like they go from hot, super hot, love bomb to immediately cold, ghosting. Who are you? What are you doing? To, oh my God, love bomb, future fake, you know, we'll be together. Oh, cold again. That intermittent reinforcement, that is a way to train you to comply. All right. Hot and cold, number two. Number three, isolating you. They start isolating you from the people who love you. I'm the one that loves you the most. I'm the one that gives you the most. Nobody else cares about you like I do. Isolating you from your family and friends. Number four way narcissists use to train you to comply is passive aggression. Covert narcissists, they love this. I've seen this myself personally, unfortunately. Ugh. Passive aggression. You know, they say they're going to do something, then they don't do it. You've lost so much weight. I mean, you look pretty good for a big girl. Very passive aggressive. So that's number four. The number 5 way tactic that narcissists use to train you to comply, micro manipulations. You know, little ways of micro manipulating you. Getting you to do things that you don't want to do, forcing you to, you know, you didn't really mean that. DMing you little things in your DM box. Oh, I didn't really mean for you to see that. Dropping little drama bombs. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. My doctor wasn't sure. Oh, I didn't mean for you to see that. Well, I know you don't really care. You know, little micro manipulations, little things like that. That's another tactic that narcissists use to train you to comply. Number 6 is gaslighting. All narcissists love the gaslighting. You're so oversensitive. You're misrepresenting the facts. You are misremembering. We talked about that. Don't you remember? And I have a whole video on narcissists' favorite gaslighting phrases. You definitely check that one out. They all love the gaslighting. Number 7. Number 7 is I was only joking, which is a form of gaslighting, but I definitely wanted to highlight it because it is so egregious. When you add like ha to the end of a sentence, that is super hurtful. it doesn't make it funny. And I've so seen this from so many narcissists that I really wanted to just specifically highlight it, because they definitely use this to train you to comply. It is definitely a tactic that they use, and it's just not good. It's not funny, and it is something that they use to train you to comply. And if you don't think it's funny, I want you to put that in the comments. It's not funny. Number 8. The number 8 way that they use to train you to comply is guilt. Well, I guess I'll just stay here by myself while you go off for the holidays, and I'll just be over here alone. Number 9 is playing the victim. Coverts love to play the victim. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair that you get this and I don't. Or I'm so sick, or things never go my way. Life is terrible to me. We all have our lessons in life. We should not be playing the victim. Narcissists love to play the victim. Number 10 tactic that narcissists use to train you to comply. Narcissists love them some flying monkeys. They love their flying monkeys. They love to use the flying monkeys because then you feel bullied. There are armies of people lined up so that you feel like everybody is ganging up on you. Here's the thing that was like kind of like the aha moment for me. The flying monkeys don't always know that they're being like recruited sometimes. Like a lot of times the flying monkeys are kind of being love bombed by the narcissist too. They're not like in on it a lot of times. So you kind of like can't always like even blame them. Sometimes it is what it is. You just got to like get away from the whole toxic thing. Like sage yourself, sage everything about you, and just get away from the whole thing.